You got fire bombings of kosher store outside Paris, injures 4. U.S. embassies getting attacked all over still. We're going to be breaking all that down. We're going to be looking at what's happening in the economy. And, of course, the big story, DHS purchases 200 million more rounds of ammunition. I want to open the phones up. And don't worry, you won't have to hold because I don't have a lot of time. I'll go right to you. For police officers out there or active duty military. I know you've all been given riot training or you know folks that have. But I want your take on this. What do you think of 1.6 million rounds of ammo since last November? 1,400 million just this year. Over 1 billion of that in just the last 6 months. What is your take on that? I mean, along with all the other martial law preparations, just for police and military, 800-259-9231. I mean, how could this be anything but a buildup for total war of the American people under continuity of government? You know, knowledge is powerful if you put it into action. The execution of knowledge is what's really important. And I'm here trying to get this story out. I mean, if we had a foreign army massing on our border, you know, let's say 5 million Chinese troops massing on the Mexican border, hypothetically, and everybody's ignoring it, and they're shipping in hundreds of millions of rounds of ammo and weapons, I'd be, hey, we got a problem. Well, the globalists are here using our money to buy tanks, wheeled vehicles, 1.6 million rounds of ammo, admitting they're training the military for civil unrest. I mean, that's why I say the Iran thing could go hot now. That's why I'm saying the meltdown could happen now, because they're moving now. They're getting it all lined up right now. And then you get the training manuals. It's not about fighting al-Qaeda, which, you know, the globalists manufactured and run today. It's all about those of us that are true Americans and understand the takeover. They're really planning an authoritarian takeover. This is a big deal. This is a big deal. And keeping your head down is not going to protect you on average. Historically, that's going to hurt a lot more people. We've got to stand up and say, hey, we're in the right. You people are crooks. What are you doing in your national security system? Stop it. Stop it. You're run by foreign banks. Here they are bragging on the news. The foreign banks brag in the newspapers and in financial publications and on TV that they've captured us. And I'm like, is anybody awake? Are you people in a coma? What, I mean, it's all parading around in front of us. We got hours and hours of this footage, different towns around Austin and at Austin where you go, and it's like these operatives play dumb. Then you go find out they're all UN, Rockefeller funded, and they are taking everything over. Just under Agenda 21. I mean, they've got the mayors, they've got the bureaucrats, they've got the HUD money, they've got it all. They plan on shutting everything down that they don't control. I mean, it's bad, man. They're going to have their businesses and their buildings that get all the business because they're insiders and you're shut down and you've got all these new taxes on you. And it's just so horrible. It's the end of my country. It's a financial takeover. And they've got all these weird liberals who will go, I'm a socialist. We are taking over for the greater good. Really? No, you're not a socialist. You work for eugenicists who want control and want to reduce population and hate prosperity and hate development. We've even got some of them saying that on tape. It's just, man, these people, it's a cult. It's a cult of weirdos, man, control freak weirdos. And you look at their jellyfish servants, they're really creepy. Because, yeah, they're weak and pathetic and crave power, but there's armies of them. There's armies of them, and they know they're empowered by the beast system. They know they've been given power. And it's just horrible to watch them, just wriggling masses of soft scum. Oh, God. Oh, God. I want your take on that. 800-259-9231. Police, current military. I mean, is there any way I'm wrong? Please, I'd love to hear how the admissions for martial law, re-education camps, 1.6 billion bullets, media spends it to 174,000 bullets. I want to break it all down. Alex Jones here with a very important announcement for truth seekers. We've carried a lot of amazing films and books over the years on the online video bookstore at Infowars.com. And out of all the titles we've carried, one stands out because it is just so chillingly convincing. And that's Dreams from My Real Father by Joel Gilbert, available at Infowars.com. This film exposes the fraud that Obama is like nothing I've seen. If you want to know who Obama's real daddy is, this is the film for you. Don't forget, your purchase supports our broadcast and our growing media network. You'll also find at Infowarshop.com None Dare Call a Conspiracy by Gary Allen, the book that woke me up. We're also carrying Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21 by Rosa Corey. This book is coffin nails to the globalist takeover. The Greater Good, the most professional and up-to-date film I've ever seen exposing the scourge that is vaccines. These titles and a lot more are all available at InfoWarsShop.com. And now we don't have the generals or the politicians running things. We have bankers running things, announcing a private global government in every financial publication out there as a public notice and telling us we're slaves. I could play clips from CNN, CNBC, you name it, announcing under international law that they've conquered us, announcing that Europe is getting rid of whatever sovereignty it had left in their countries to the mega bankers that engineered the fraud. And now in Europe, in Australia, in New Zealand, in Canada, in the United States, every Western government is arming to the teeth against its population for a worldwide financial collapse that they've engineered but will pose as the saviors during. And none of that is debatable now. That is the course. We're about to hit the iceberg. I hope we can change course. They may not even be able to turn the boat around if they try. And quite frankly, those running the boat have got it slammed pedal to the metal. They have got the throttle all the way down. Hammer down, going straight at it. And that is the issue. Romney, Obama, rearranging deck chairs. Okay, so you could argue it's better to get Obama in, let things get worse quicker. Or you can argue, well, maybe Romney will be good. Yeah, maybe a hope and a prayer. I don't know. At least Romney gives lip service to free market and stuff. But maybe it's best to just have somebody pushing communism. Communism for us, though, not for the offshore bankers. So coming up, DHS purchases 200 million more rounds of ammunition. The story has gone viral. It's up at Infowars.com and DrudgeReport.com on the right-hand side. Additional purchases include bullets designed for snipers. That's now more than 5 bullets, almost 6 bullets per man, woman, and child in the country. That's 1.6 billion plus bullets. And they are just buying up everything in sight. That is roughly double the ammunition the U.S. military bought last year. We're doing a report on that. It looks like it's going to be double this year. So, I mean, it's getting ready for war. And they're run by foreign banks. All their little yuppies, their trendies, their socialists, that's their army. Bankers use socialists as their collectivist robbers because they want loot. They're like Roman centurions. They just are non-threatening in the sandals and, you know, their little sissy walk they do. That's all a cover. These are craven demons. And the conservatives are just totally neutralized off in la-la land, having no idea what's going on, and their operatives are everywhere. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, you can go to any town where I live around Austin and go into any meeting, and they're there running everything. And all UN Rockefeller funded. I mean, it is on. We are in trouble. Unlimited taxpayer money to fund every control freak you can imagine who are just looting things 24/7 because that's the globalist plan to destroy this country. I want to talk to police and military right now, briefly in this segment and the next. What do you make of 1.6 billion bullets? What do you make of all the tanks and armored vehicles and preparation for civil unrest that are admitted? What do you make of all this? 800-259-9231 for military active duty, for your take on this, and for police. 800-259-9231. Then coming up, the story just went up at Infowars.com, shocking evidence that GMOs are causing incredible tumors in lab animals. That's been out for a while, but there's new studies out. It's huge. Mike Adams will be popping in. Gerald Celente joining us in the next hour. I'm going to get into the French magazine publishing things of Muhammad. And so now the UN and others are calling to restrict free speech. We're going to be getting into all that. I predicted that would come next, a global move to restrict speech. This is all part of the plan. Out of the clash of civilizations, the new world order will emerge. Albert Pike said that back in the 1870s, 1878. He said we'll have a clash between Muslims, the Mohammedans, as he called them, and the Christians. And then out of that, the Illuminati religion will basically emerge. 800-259-9231. Kevin in Colorado, who is a police officer. What is your take on this, sir?
Hey, Alex, I actually just attended a lecture on the police state here at University of Colorado, and it was ridiculous. I'll tell you, the level of globalism here is just amazing. I thought Washington, D.C. was bad, but I'm actually here. I've infiltrated the Council on Foreign Relations. They've invited me to become a member. I'm attending the meetings for the Denver Council on Foreign Relations.
Well, yeah, they have sub-satellites, not the mothership, but you've been invited into the local takeover arm.
Yeah, Alex, and it says on their website, it says Friends of the Council on Foreign Relations and this other thing called the Pacific Institute on International Policy. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, that was founded by the Rockefellers. Every stinking one of them was. It's all them. And literally 95% of everything we run into is them. It's all public. And Denver is the real capital of the U.S. They're going to have the capital of the Americas in Atlanta, Georgia. And then D.C. is just a district of criminal activity. But, yeah, no, they teach the police tell folks what they're teaching you there.
Well, I attended this lecture. This is the interesting thing. There was actually an Obama rally. I saw Obama speak about a week ago. But the interesting thing was 2 days before Obama came, there was an event titled, "Do You Know Why I'm Pulling You Over?" And it was about police-civilian interaction. So I had to attend that, and it was exactly what I expected. The whole thing was glorifying the police state. They talked about, Alex, have you ever heard this term, community-oriented policing?
Yeah, and you think that means back to the cop on the beat you knew and your friend. No, it's interfacing you as a social network to basically spy on everybody and get police in non-traditional police duties.
Yeah, exactly, Alex. The way you tried to explain it was he talked about police being on the streets, interacting with civilians. And then this is the thing. There was a major police state. I think you were talking recently about how they're having all these drills. And I think at the Obama rally, there was a major police state drill. They lined up these cops on like a 2-mile stretch of road, just hundreds of police, every 15 or 20 feet. Alex, there were animal control officers working the streets as police officers.
Yeah, no. What they're doing is they're blurring the lines, just like any martial state, any military state. You just get used to the uniforms everywhere and used to being told what to do, so you don't notice it when your neighbor disappears or helicopters run a drill. Oh, this time they attacked. Well, that's just what they do. It's part of domestication. It's all a psych warfare profile. That stuff's all been declassified in manuals from the 60s. You can watch videos of it on YouTube from the 60s. They were classified until the 90s, and how they would take over third world countries and to fight the communist threat, but they would fight it with the exact tactics of the communist. So, see, you become the communist by fighting the communist, and that's why the bankers created the communist the entire time. It's very diabolical. You should do a YouTube video, sir, and, don't show your face or whatever, and then expose it. You are the leader. You are the resistance. Thank you so much. We've got Mike in Tennessee, who's Air Force. We've got Jeff in Texas, who's Army. Milton, whose brother of a cop, told him some stuff. Let's go to Mike in Tennessee, Air Force, listening on 1600 AM. Mike, good to have you with us.
Alex, you need to look at what they're buying, and that tells you what their plans are. When you see they're setting up for sniper situations, you need to come up with solutions for the general public to know how to respond, what not to do, and how to react. Because in an environment like if you live in a rural community and they set up a spot on a sniper and they've got just a matter of time before you walk out of your house, if that be their plan, then people need to be aware of that, and they need to prepare and understand how to evade those situations.
Yes, sir. And to be clear, the Rural Council is run by Homeland Security. Under it is Department of Defense. And my military sources wouldn't tell me what was classified, but they said, we're training to do what we do to shut down communities, scorched earth, cordon whole rural areas. And they're just going to kill farmers when they come out of their house. They're going to use mercenaries and others to take the land. They're going to be killing farmers who aren't even resisting them. I don't think people understand this is a Ukrainian Soviet takeover model. From everything I've researched, that's the best example I could call it. They plan to do to us what they did to the Ukrainians. Folks, we cannot let this happen.
Well, in West Tennessee, for the last 2 years, they've had Russian soldiers paratrooping practice missions in Fayette County, Tennessee. Front page article of Commercial Appeal in June of 2010, and a whole back page article about it where they're training for deployment to Afghanistan. Well, when I look on Google Earth, Afghanistan is mountainous, rugged deserts and hilly, Fayette County is flat as a pancake, and there's wheat fields, cotton fields, corn
Well,
fields.
sir, again, they always lie to you in the local paper, but then you can go look at the actual mission, which I did look at the mission funding. That is under counterterrorism under NLE 11. That happened in 11, right?
Correct. And
Yeah, no, that was under NLE 11, and that was counterterrorism to fight. And then the manuals attached to it that are public is they were training to fight red-blooded Americans. That was a Red Dawn training drill in your area.
And what they'll do is they'll go to one house, they'll take them out, they'll sit there and relax and watch TV and eat, and then they'll get refreshed. They'll go to the next door neighbors and stay there, eat, get refreshed, sleep. Next morning, start all over again, and they'll just work their way through the country. They'll go from east to west.
No, that's the plan, and that's why if they do start it, I've never been for violence. I'm doing everything I can to make this defensive. Once stuff like that starts, tactically, you're forced to go to them. You don't wait for them to come to you.
You got to meet them at the curb, but you've got to get people to understand the techniques and tactics that are not out there, that are not known.
Well, I'm a reporter, not a general, but I tell you what, if people knew how much trouble we were in. The globalists have their operatives all over this country, not just acclimating us with Russians here just last month in Denver for anti-terror drills. They have prepared a lot of the police to go along with this, but a lot of police have finally woken up because the brainwashing's gotten so evident. We're about to go back to your phone calls. All I know is that as a republic, as a society, we are in dire straits. Our troops are all over the world being overrun in Afghanistan, you name it. Our so-called government is putting al-Qaeda in all over the Middle East. And then meanwhile, these paramilitary forces are being built up of mercenaries and others that will do whatever they're told against the American people and have been trained we're the enemy. Think of how crazy things have gotten and understand that during a financial collapse, the public will beg for mercenaries, whoever, to come in to restore order, not knowing that when communications are cut off, then the mercenaries can do whatever they want. And they do want to starve out this country. That is on the drawing board. We have to get the word out and back this program off before the media goes dark, before they shut us down. Let's go ahead and talk to Mark in Mississippi, who's a police officer. Mark, what's your take on the 1.6 billion bullets purchased now in the last year by Homeland Security?
Well, first of all, Alex, I'd like to preface this by saying that most Americans would probably be completely shocked by the integration of their state and local police with federal law enforcement and the federal government. Having said that, and I'm not going to say a lot, but there are being preparations made for two scenarios, and those two scenarios are they're preparing for a possible financial collapse, which could entail martial law. And the other scenario is going to be that they're preparing for massive inflation, which would cause the price of these different types of ammunition to skyrocket. And if the federal government has those on hand, then they can avoid that. So that's the two scenarios that are being prepared for, and that's really all I can say.
Wow, sir, that is the best answer I've gotten that says, sure, this is all for martial law, but also they're buying 10 times what they'd even need for martial law because they're worried about the arms race of citizens buying so much of it already. They understand that they now want to stockpile this valuable commodity. So that is a good angle. So that's what you're being told?
That's the two scenarios that are being prepared for.
Well, let me just say this to you, in the town or city you live in. The people calling the shots on top aren't Obama and Romney. They're foreign banks. Have you seen them in the news bragging that the world government's being established right now?
Yes, I have.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask you as a police officer then. I mean, is there any line in the sand that you and other officers won't cross? I mean, our country's already pretty much been hijacked. Now they want to complete the takeover. I mean, what should we be asking you to do? Because I know cops will say, well, it's up to you, the citizens, to get control of the government. But now we try to even go protest, and the police are told to try to scare us off. So we're kind of getting to that point where the system wants to cause a civil war, which won't be good for anybody but the offshore banks. What do you recommend we do?
Well, I think most of the officers that I work with respect the Constitution, and they respect Americans' constitutional rights. Now, I can't speak for other police departments around the country, so, but that's really the limit of my comments. I just wanted to give you those scenarios to let you know, and you can research that, and you can find that if you look out there on the internet and dig deep enough.
No, no, actually, I know you're right, but let me just add this last point to you. I mean, are the other police you're talking to, are you guys having discussions about what's going on here?
There are a few, but police are just like any other average American. They are just normal people. And some are awake and some are not.
Yeah, that's code for super stupid and super lazy. I mean, if you're saying the average American, I'm sorry. There's a lot of hardworking Americans, just like there's a lot of hardworking cops. But there's a lot of just people that they're not even dumb. They don't want to know. And I mean, this is incredible history unfolding right now. And it's about to get absolutely cattywampus, to use a term you might know there in Louisiana. And I don't want this to happen. I mean, do you have any ideas of how to stop this? I mean, I think we expose it, and that may back off the perpetrators.
Keep doing what you're doing, Alex. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I hear you. I appreciate your call. I mean, folks, this is real. I just hope the listeners understand. 1.6 billion rounds of ammo, TSA on the streets, all these preparations, the re-education centers. You know, when I got that Army document 4 months ago, I wished it wasn't real. And then the Army came out and said, no, that's real. You shouldn't have that. And then the Army put it out. I'm going to say that again. Re-education camps, calling them re-education camps, are in public Army documents, and it's not even news. Re-education camps. I'm not going to any re-education camp run by a bunch of commies.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done's been right.
Right now, we're talking to police officers and military. Let's move quick before we go to Mike Adams. I want to get to David, who's in the Army in Kentucky, Ron in New York, who's a police officer, Jeff is in the Army, Milton, who's in Indiana, brother of a cop, we'll get to him, Tim in Kentucky, Army. Let's get Ron in New York, who's a police officer's take, again, on the government buying another 200 million rounds of ammo, Homeland Security, a bunch of it, match-grade 308 sniper ammunition, type of stuff I shoot out of my Reaper or my Remington 700. Let's go ahead and go to him. Give us your take, Ron, on exactly what's going on.
This is my theory on what's happened. Look how cleverly, and I want to put forth this theory. I don't think it has been put forth earlier. Look how cleverly they cover this up. About 2 weeks back, give or take, there was a story about the 174,000 rounds purchased by the Social Security Administration. When you did the math there, it broke down to a plausible deniability because the amount of rounds that were distributed to Social Security officers were within the reasonable amount. Hold on.
600 apiece.
Hold on. Let me break it down. An amount of rounds were within a reasonable framework for target practice. Now, that's the switch and bait story. See, that's the red herring. That was offered for the public. Well, they're doing that simultaneously and more quietly. They're out buying obscene and unjustifiable amounts of ammunition through other agencies. You see, that was done as a red herring or a switch and bait to allay the public's fear, and everybody would say, oh, that sounds reasonable. And so they just focus on that one little spot, and they don't look at all the other agencies buying obscene amounts of ammo that could never be justified. So look how cleverly they pull off the strategy.
No, I agree. Why do you? What do you think it's for?
Oh, it's for target practice, all right, but it's not paper targets I think they're ultimately interested in. Let's just say it's moving targets, and they all happen to be of American nationality. I think eventually it is going to come down to that. That's what I think that they intend on doing. This has been building up a long time. I've been calling you, or I've called you since the early part of this century, and I spoke to you when I initially called you. That's 10 or more years ago. And I told you New York City was basically one of the test models. It's practically a federalized city. When they started integrating federalizing law enforcement in this city, it was a test ground for it. The utilization of funds, equipment, and things like that. I noticed that we started to see greater paramilitarization being built up in police force. It was no longer just a nice neighborhood cop that everybody is accustomed to and knew up to that point, but it's being turned into a paramilitary organization. I had mentioned that at that time. You had also mentioned the military, the United States military. At that time, 10 years ago or so, I called you and told you of, right on public access TV, it was the most shocking thing I'd seen at that time, a video in which the United States military was quite proudly and comfortably lauding the fact that they had members of the Council on Foreign Relations, Daniel Pipes in particular, in the Pentagon, speaking to junior officers. And when they interviewed these junior officers, it was made clear that if they wanted to move up ranks or go anywhere in the military, they would have to go along with that internationalist program. This is within the United States military.
No, sir, you're absolutely right. Listen, they have federalized the police already, but the feds aren't feds. They're globalist banker operatives. The federal government was taken over by collaborators and foreign operatives. They're globalist. And while we're busy worried about Russians and Chinese or the jihadis that the globalists run, they are taking over, and now they're taking over the little towns outside Austin. And when you turn the camera off, they go, yeah, I'm CIA, we're taking over. I mean, these are soldiers. We've got soldiers at UT and over the cities, plain clothes, State Department, CIA, foreign banking operatives. They know. What's incredible is how many are actual collaborators. What's incredible is how big this is. What's incredible is the Army manuals now admit re-education camps. I just showed the Army manual earlier on screen if you're a PrisonPlanet.tv viewer. We have it linked in our DHS purchases, 200 million more rounds of ammunition. This is a radical takeover, unlike the world's ever seen. It's not a foreign army pouring over. It's a slow, stealth takeover where they make profits as they take over new industries. But it's all towards the total takeover. And now I think we're getting very, very close, Ron. I've got to go to our next guest, and we'll go back to your calls, other police and military that are holding. I promise we'll get to you ahead of Gerald Salente. But anything else, Ron, you can say? Because I was, I went to New York decades ago, and the police weren't mean. I've since been back there quite a bit. They literally act more thuggy than street gang scum I see. And so it's not just that. They've also corrupted everything. And now they're saying the mayor will tell you what to eat, what to drink, what to do. If you sit on the sidewalk, we'll arrest you. I mean, they have hundreds of thousands of stop and frisk. I mean, New York is a hellish city now.
What happened is gradually over that same period of time, they began to recruit people with a certain, they know the psychological profile of who they're looking for, and that starts in the recruitment process. And they wanted people that would be more malleable or more amenable to doing these sort of things. They specifically went after the personality types who would be capable of doing these things. And as a result of that, they basically, by and large, do have a force now that would not reflect on human conscience about doing some of the most unthinkable things, or things that would not have been done, by and large, by that force in another time where another type of morality was dominant. They needed to make sure that they bled out those that subscribed to the old morality and brought in those who were either on power trips, who were only concerned about careers, who were only concerned about maybe what they could grab, and try and populate that organization with those types. This is something that they have gradually done over a generation, maybe two.
You're right. The globalists knew they couldn't take this country down overnight, and they've done it by infiltration, just as the great historian wrote in Rome, Cicero. Guys, will you print me the quote of Cicero on the traitor? Cicero on the traitor, and I'll cover it when we're done with Mike Adams. Thank you so much for coming on, Ron. Ron's been calling in for more than 10 years and giving us a lot of good information. I guess he retired about 10 years ago, so that's when he could start calling into the show. I know we have other police and military waiting to talk to us. Look, the Constitution and Bill of Rights, if we followed it, all this would be illegal. And it's still illegal, but the system just does whatever it wants. We're in dire straits. These globalists hate America. They want to round up 50 million of us and kill half of those. That's Obama's own advisors. And it's a lot bigger than just Obama. I mean, we're in deep trouble, folks, and not being able to wake up to it is what's going to let them win. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the sites, you can also tune in 24 hours a day. to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.